This is Pre-Calc Lesson 4.3, trig extended, the circular functions. So we'll get into the unit circle. All right, initial and terminal. Initial is where you start, terminal is where you end. We always start with a positive angle. We're going to start at 0, 0 and go to the left, counterclockwise. A negative angle is going to go counterclockwise. Two angles in an extended angle measurement can be considered coterminal if they end in the same spot. So find a positive and a negative angle that are coterminal with 45. Well, to figure out the positive angle, you just add 360, because if you keep going around, 405 would be the same thing as 45, so would 765. To find a negative angle, you can subtract 360, which would be minus 315, be the same thing. So there's your negative and your positive. So you can add or subtract 360 to kind of figure out your coterminal stuff. What about if it's radians? Find a positive and a negative angle that are coterminal with pi over 6. Well, pi over 6 is the same thing as 30 degrees, but you can, 2 pi would be the same thing as 360. So if I want to add 2 pi to that, that's like the same thing as 12 pi over 6 plus 1 pi over 6 would be 13 pi over 6. Or I can subtract 360 or 2 pi radians, which would be negative 11 pi over 6. So just remember that coterminal means they end in the same spot. 2 pi is the same. 2 pi radians is the same thing as 360 degrees. All right. If you have theta be any angle in standard position, you can always use trig to set up. You can do it this way, or you can use the Pythagorean theorem. But I mean, these are our same ratios. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, cosecant, they're all the same things. It's just using the different letters. Okay. So let theta be an angle, acute angle in standard position whose terminal side contains the point 3, 5. So boom, boom, 3 over 3 up 5. Find all 6 trig functions of theta. All right, so theta would be in here. Got to do Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared is 9 plus 25 makes that the square root of 34. Okay, so sine theta equals 5 over root 34. Cosecant theta is root 34 over 5. Cosine theta is adjacent 3 over root 34. Secant theta is root 34 over 3. Tan theta would be opposite over adjacent, 5 over 3. Cotan theta then would be 3 over 5. So use Pythagorean theorem to help you out. And then it's the same way to find your trig functions, kind of like in quadrant rule 1, everything's positive. If you're in a different quadrant, then you do have to be careful with negatives. So find the sine of 210 without a calculator. This is where we're going to want to use our unit circle. So there's the unit circle. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on the unit circle, cosine is going to be x, and sine is going to be y, and tangent is going to be y divided by x. So it asked us to find the sine of 210. So we go over here to 210. The sine would be y, so it would be negative 1/2. Okay, use that unit circle to help you out here. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, so you have that unit circle. Make sure you print off those notes and or have access to them. Okay. Find sine and cotangent of theta by using a given information to construct a reference triangle. Okay. So cosine is negative. All right. That means where is x negative? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So look at our unit circle again here. Cosine is negative in either this quadrant or this quadrant, because that's where x is negative. So over here or over here. But it also then says that cosecant is negative as well. So that, or sine. So sine is negative. Well, sine is negative in these two quadrants, which means we have to be in this quadrant. We have to be in quadrant 2. Okay? So sine is negative, cosine is negative. So we're over here in quadrant 2. No, quadrant 3. They're both negative. I'm sorry. We're in quadrant 3. So x and y are both negative. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're going to draw our reference triangle. Our angle goes with the horizontal. And cosine is 8, and the hypotenuse is 17. Okay, that's -8 because one of them has to be negative, and the hypotenuse can never be negative, plus we're going to the left. All right, so now we've got to find our missing leg. So we're going to go 17 squared minus 8 squared. So 17 squared minus 8 squared is 225. Square root of that is 15. But then that would also be negative. Okay? So it asks us to find the sine and the cotangent. Well, sine would be opposite. So the sine of theta would be -15 over hypotenuse 17. Cotangent would be adjacent over opposite. So adjacent would be -8 over opposite would be -15. Both of those become positive. Negative by negative, so 8 over 15. All right, so use your unit circle to kind of figure out what quadrant you're in and then go from there because it'll tell you what you need to know in the instructions. Let's try another one like that. All right, find sine and cotangent again. This time tangent is negative. So tangent's negative and cosine is positive. So we got to look at our unit circle. Where is tangent positive? Well, cosine's negative. I'm sorry, cosine's positive. So we have to be either here or here. And then for tangent to be negative, that means we'd have to be down here because tangent would be that divided y divided by x. So that means we are in the 4th quadrant. Okay? So we're going to draw a reference triangle. We're in the 4th quadrant. There's our theta. We always go with the horizontal. Okay? Tangent is opposite over adjacent. This would have to be negative because it's going down. All right, so we need to find our hypotenuse. Well, 1 squared plus 2 squared is 5, so our hypotenuse is the square root of 5. And we're supposed to find the sine, which would be opposite over hypotenuse, so -1 over the square root of 5. And the cotangent would be opposite over adjacent. Well, we would just flip that one over. -2 over 1 would be the cotangent. All right, so you got to use your unit circle to figure out what quadrant you're in, and then draw your reference triangle. Always go with the horizontal as you're doing those. Okay. All right, there's another copy of the unit circle. There's also one. There will be one on the formula sheet in the chapter as well. All right, let's go ahead and go through a couple of these on the assignment together here. 347 here. Numbers 1 and 2, we're supposed to identify one angle that is not coterminal with the others. Well, so we have to add or subtract 360 for the degrees. Well, 150 plus 360 is 510. 150 minus 360 is -210. 150 to 450 is 300, so that's it. That's the one that's not coterminal. Okay. If you add them together, you should get 360 or -360. Same thing here. If you add them together or subtract them, you should get 2 pi. So 5 pi and -5 pi over 3, well, those are inverses, so those are not coterminal. So -5 pi over 3 would be our one that doesn't work there. All right, number 4, I believe we're supposed to put all 6 trig functions So here we go. There's our reference triangle, 4, -3, and then 3, 4. So our hypotenuse has to be 5. So our theta is right up in there. All right, here we go. Sine theta, opposite, -3/5, which means cosecant theta has to be 5 over -3. Cosine theta, adjacent over hypotenuse. Secant theta, 5 over 4. And tangent theta, opposite, -3 over adjacent 4. So cotangent theta is -4